Good evening and Hare Krishna. Welcome to our conversations with Govinda Das on a new platform. I hope we are comfortable with this new platform. So today we'll be discussing about legacy. We all want to leave a legacy. We want a legacy to continue. And how do we do that? Through the concept of sun, that is sun, and sun, that is son. We learn from Prabhuji. For those who are a little less known to Prabhuji, I would like to speak a few words about him. He's a thought leader. He is a very respectable author and a very impactful speaker who makes our scriptures refreshingly relevant in today's times. Uh, I'm sure we will have some questions. There is an icon, there's a mic icon at the bottom of the screen towards your left. Kindly request to be invited to speak, and we will pull you into the conversation at an appropriate time. Thank you very much for joining. With these words, over to you, Prabhuji.
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you, Deepak ji, for inviting me to speak on this platform on Sun and Sun. This is Surya and Putra. The If you study carefully, Surya Dev is so secular that everybody, it doesn't matter whether one is theist or atheist, Nastik or Astik, at one point of time in the history of our creation, everybody, whether it was Egypt, whether it was North America, whether it is Mexican or South America, everybody had a similar idea, maybe some refined and some not so refined. But the foundational principle of looking towards Sun God or experiencing Him and offering one's gratitude was a natural reality. In the Egyptian civilization, the sun god was called as Re, you know, and it is very interesting. They also had conceived the names of sun god based upon his movement. Sun, when he would start his journey as young god Khepur, then in the afternoon is full grown sun Re, and in the evening he would become Atum. Right before the advent of Christianity, also all the rituals of Mexicans and Peruvian system had important place for sun. As the representation of sun god. You see, there are two major dynasty, the Surya Kula and Chandra Kula, Chandra Vamsha and Surya Vamsha. The entire Raghu Kula, right? The Lord Ramachandra, his clan comes from sun god Surya, and Lord Krishna's clan comes from Chandra, right? Whether you are worshipping a deity, it is still connected to Surya and Chandra. If you are worshipping Surya and Chandra, it is still connected to Krishna and Ramachandra, right? When you see Lord Shiva, you cannot see Lord Shiva without the moon with him. There is such an integral connection between a concrete, vigraha, and the energy which is flowing through sun and moon, right? And in fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives all the student, listening to the knowledge of Gita. And not only that, the great Hanumanji had sun god as his teacher, right? So therefore, before the advent of the cultist religions, worship of the nature through sun and moon, whether it is Africa, many years ago, it happens every year. One of my friend had attended the conference of pagan religionists from Russia to Mexico, from India to West Indies. And this person who was attending, he would do Sandhya Vandan every day. It's a very interesting Sandhya Vandan. In Bharat, even the Kapis, even Wali would perform Sandhya Vandan every day, offering oblation to Surya Dev. And from Wali, who supposedly he's not monkey, but people call sometime his Kapi, whether it is Wali or it is Lord Krishna, every day without fail, in the morning, he would offer oblation to Surya Dev. In the Bhagavatam 10th canto, you can understand. Similarly, when Lord Ramachandra, along with Lakshman, when he came to, you know, fight the Rakshasas in the forest, Vishwamitra Muni took them. There is a beautiful verse, you know, which glorifies Lord Rama as the son of Kaushalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate. See, connecting Lord Ram, waking him up, but what is the connection to waking him up? Waking him up for Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narasaruna. Your kartavya. So whether someone is the Supreme Lord or somebody ordinary like Kapi, there was one common factor, and that common factor was worshipping the Surya. Whether it is Bharat or beyond, whether you are white or black, whether you are blue or yellow, everybody for that matter offered their prayers. In fact, it is explained, the Mahabharat war would begin only after the sunrise and it would conclude before the sun would set. And the purpose was very clear, that I need to offer my gratitude to sun, right? So therefore, in essence, if you understand carefully, sun is the essence of our existence. Sun, S-U-N, Surya, is the essence of our existence, and son, S-O-N, Putra or Putri for that matters, is the essence of our consequences. Sun is the essence, he is the cause of our essence, and the parinam, the consequence of our essence, is the Putra or Putri. It is very important to understand. Nowadays, because people have developed a synthetic spirituality. A synthetic spirituality means bereft of connecting the energy of the Lord through Surya, Chandra, Nakshatra, planets, and river and the mountains. When we disconnect with them, our spirituality many times becomes synthetic. Right? People undermine the worship of Prakriti in the form of extension of the Supreme. Therefore, son is the essence, is a karana, and putra is the consequences, is a parinama. So, therefore, the Sankranti, Makara Sankranti means on the 14th afternoon, Surya, a wonderful phenomena, one of the greatest cause of anxiety and depression, right? One has to study in this regard. But this is how our ancestors, our rishis, our great Ayurvedic acharyas have given very interesting principle. When you raise your head towards the eastern direction, Purva Disha, waiting for this rising sun to come out from the horizon. These are all actual natural affirmations. When you raise your head, what do you see? You see an eternal sky, limitless sky. And from that limitless sky comes a light giver, the essence giver, the giver of prana. So when he gives the energy, then one develops a meaning to live, meaning to contribute. How many people actually raise their head in the morning? The statement Brahma, right, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Where does it come from? It's a simple statement, but if you go back to the Ayurveda, he was a dean of Ayurvedic college. An interesting fact, one of the reason why people are developing more and more diabetic, one of the reason, I'm not giving only this as a reason. One of the reason he said where people develop diabetic problem is connected to not rising before the sun is risen. I said, how is that, sir? Immediately asked that question. He said, you know what? Because the early morning hours before the sun is risen, that sleep is called as sakar zhop in Marathi. वो मीठा निद्रा होती है, मीठा स्वीट निद्रा. That sleep in the morning hours before sunrise and during the before sunrise and about to be sun risen, that is the time which is has an intoxication in sleep. You go deep sleep. When people develop conditioning to these things, it has actually the impact of sugar. And therefore the Brahma Muhurta has 4 levels. Those who are practicing complete renunciation, vairagya, they are supposed to rise 2 hours before sunrise. Then there are vanaprastha, they rise 1.5 hours before. Then there are grahasthas who rise 45 minutes hour before. And there are students who are not all the students, we are talking the laziest of the lazy student. Ayurveda talks about it. They should rise at least 20 minutes before the sun rises. Now, the impact of not rising before the sun is risen and our alertness, mindfulness, equanimity is completely confused. Just by rising, just imagine how much benefit it was there. In the Mahabharata, the great Rishi Daumya, he gave mantras to Yudhishthira Maharaj to worship sun god, Surya Dev, because he wanted Akshaya Patra. Akshaya Patra means to feed his citizens, even though Yudhishthira Maharaj ceased to be the king officially, but kingly mentality did not go away from his heart. It is not only about the position, it's a disposition. He was bereft of his position, but never bereft of his disposition. Therefore, 60,000 students traveled with him. He was very eager to feed them.
Prabhuji, it
He wanted to
seems your
feed them.
voice is breaking.
Hello? You're able to hear?
Uh,
Hello?
Deepak Prabhu, how is
Yes,
your
Prabhuji,
You're
we can
able to
hear.
hear?
music to
Yes, we
you?
can hear well. Yes, yes, very well. But now
Okay,
better,
okay.
Prabhuji. Now it's a
We
little
are,
better.
we are able to hear?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
yes, yes.
Oh, there is. Um, you're able to hear?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu,
Prabhuji,
yeah,
we
yeah.
can hear. Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, I just got lost. Just a minute. The point is
Prabhuji,
that they. Okay,
impact of
sorry,
Surya
sorry.
on
So,
our,
yeah,
our
so
morning routine, Prabhu. Brahmachari and the Sakar Vritti.
yeah, our this yeah. So when there is a when there is the whole civilization is missing this simple com, and therefore where do they go? They go to psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists. But the universe is providing free therapy for us because Surya, represents that. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he prayed for that Akshaya Patra, inexhaustible container which would provide limitless food till Draupadi takes that meal. Even those who say, no, I don't believe this kind of stories, okay, you don't believe, let us take it symbolically for your reason. Let us take it as a symbolic, right? Even if we take it as a symbolism, so our Yudhishthira Maharaj praying to Surya Dev and he receiving Akshay Patra, has a great significance. If you see those countries where the farming has to happen, India for that matter, there are three sandhyas: morning 6, afternoon 12, and evening time. And therefore, in India, this is a known fact. You can study agricultural revolution, not the modern green revolution only, but the revolution which is mentioned in the scripture also, that he could handle three crops. Why? Because of the three sandhya. Now, if you study the story of some European countries, Iceland, Finland, right, Switzerland, all these places, land is fertile, but not three crops because the sun's descendants and sons going back, Asta and Udaya has lot of difficulty. There are no three sandhyas. And when the sun is not rising, 6 months there is no sun visibility. Study how it impacts people's life. It's a visible reality for you to study. Huh? And here we, in India, we have such a beautiful idea. What do we do? We have no connection to Surya. So how do you think that will impact psychologically? Just like the people there, it will impact very badly. And therefore, whether it is Lord Ramachandra, whether it is Lord Krishna, whether it is the Kapi, or it is the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra that took out the time to offer some water to Surya Dev. And therefore, that Surya has the power to make everything fertile. You know, in the Mahabharata, it is explained that Yudhishthira Maharaj Because he received that Akshay Patra, it became limitlessly Akshay, inexhaustible. Similarly, when the Surya rays come to the earthly planet, it gives rise to inexhaustibility of crop, prosperity, fertility. And that very fertility, which is coming from Surya, the cause, the essence of life, the prana of life, that translates into the son for the legacy of people's future. Putra. Surya and Putra. Now, Surya is the beginning. The father receives, the wife receives, and through that energy, when they bring forth a most, fertile, full of immunity, those who carry the legacy of their ancestor in the form of putra. Now, some question, why you say only son? Why not daughter? Now, just see the problem. In English, son means son, and daughter, daughter, daughter. Which putra, the word putra and putri, what is the difference? There is one little line you have to put, which is called as Velanti, right? That's all. There is the meaning of putra and putri. One is feminine gender and one is masculine gender, but the essence of the meaning is the same. Putra or putri means those who deliver their ancestors from Punamaka Naraka. Therefore, in the Mahabharata, there is an interesting question raised by our Yudhishthir. Yaksha raised this to Yudhishthir, and also Shakuntala, the famous Shakuntala of Kalidas. What an interesting phenomena. And Draupadi spoke this to Yudhishthir Maharaj and Krishna. She says why it is the responsibility of a man giving full empowerment, protection to his wife. Because when the child is born from her, she gives birth to the very man who is her husband. And therefore, when Yaksha asked this question to Yudhishthir, who is the Atma of a man? Please, who is the Atma of the man? That time he explained, the Atma of the man is the son. Shakuntala, for that matter, when she was not recognized by her husband, Dushyanta did not recognize her. He said, no, how do you say that you are my wife? No, I have given a son to you. Anybody can come and say like this. So Shakuntala told her husband, he said, just touch your son. Just touch him. By touching him, you will realize that this person is none other than coming from you only. You cannot question his connection to you. He is your Atma. With you or without you, he will continue to lead the legacy of this kingdom. Because he is your essence. She had the power to explain that to her husband very clearly. So therefore, when we study this principle of worshipping Surya and finding Putra through that, what does it do? It gives rise to proper understanding. That is the nature of Sun God. The nature of Sun God is to give us profound understanding of life, clarity. Therefore, again, when the beginning of our education, when we are about to be going to school, then it is such an unfortunate reality, especially in India, we had certain beautiful rituals which has been sidelined, which has been destroyed, which wasn't taken away. And because of that, what happens? We find people having such a leftist ideology, oak ideology, stupid ideology, illogical, unreasonable. You know, they see things as it is, but they have completely opposite understanding. It is very difficult to discuss logically. Why? Because there is no light, there is no clarity, which is supposed to come which is supposed to come through that energy. Therefore, one of the most important part of education, one of the sanskara, is the vidyarambha samskara. Upanayana samskara. In the Upanayana samskara, what is Upanayana? Upanayana means where you are receiving your eyes, not the biological eyes. There is a beautiful ceremony during the Upanayan samskar. You know, the child is covered exactly like the way he used to stay in a mother's embryo. They put a cloth, a thin cloth, and they use a very special kind of grass and cover the child, and the child looks like a bag in the womb. And the priest, the purohit, brings the father and mother opposite to that child and explains to him, explain, my dear child, when you were born, that time also you saw your parents, but you couldn't recognize in knowledge. Your connection was only biological connection to them. Now you are connecting them with an understanding. Therefore, now when you open your eyes and they close his eyes, he's completely closed. And when they open that cloth with mantras, the child sees the parents. Now there is a conscious understanding that this is my mother, this is my father, this is my mata, this is my pita. Then he is taken to the Surya Dev. There he offers prayer to Surya Dev, because Surya, just like Hanumanji received knowledge, Surya is the foundation of Vidya, right? Therefore, every student, whether he's a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they would always actually offer that oblations, that worship, that gratitude, that attention, that conscious attention with Surya Dev. By doing that, what would happen? They would develop greater knowledge, greater hope, greater connection. The vision of family would expand, because you are seeing a sun in the unlimited sky. When you see the sun in the unlimited sky, that would impact your life, where you could see everybody, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. What proper understanding, right? With proper understanding, they were able to see. Till then, till then, the son goes and worships the sun god. He opens his eyes with proper knowledge, sees his parents first time, sees Suryadev first time after that knowledge, sees his teacher, sees his Atithi. Then he goes to study more and more education. Up until then, it is explained the child would go through three things: Kamachara, Kamavada, and Kama Bhoga. Kamachar means just like a goat, you know, moving here and there. A child does not have coherency in the moment. Child doesn't have a coherency in eating. The child doesn't have a coherency in regards to what to speak, what not to speak. किधर भी जाएगा, कुछ भी खाएगा. The child can eat matti also. anything will put in the mouth. So kamachara, just like a animal simply responding to the call. Kamavada, kuch bhi bolega. He will, she or he will speak the ad of Lifebuoy soap, Nirma. Now don't know what they speak, right? And then kama bhoga. So kamachara, kamavada, kama bhoga is the essence of child's life till his eyes are open for education, right? So therefore here we understand properly the power of Surya and the power of Putra, because that Putra in the in the in the in the our whole entire Vedic concept, right? The Putra has been so much given importance in the Pandava story, right? When they did not get a child, the center point of getting child is not simply having the fun or have a child. The purpose of the child was to continue the responsible legacy. When Abhimanyu was very dear to Krishna, Krishna did not protect him. We saw that. But when Ashwathama tried to destroy the legacy of the Pandavas, Lord Krishna basically revived Parikshit from the dead. Why? It is not about Parikshit alone. It was about the legacy which Parikshit would bring forth. So therefore, the Putra gives rise to the legacy so that the ancestors, the Pitris, and everybody can grow nicely in their life for moving forward for many, many lifetimes. But in that place where the Putra is not there, then what happens? The legacy stops. When the legacy stops, the knowledge bank stops. When the knowledge bank stops, ignorance prevails. When ignorance prevails, the narrative of ignorance keeps growing. When the narrative of ignorance keeps growing, then all the rituals are destroyed. When all the rituals are destroyed, unwanted population come forth. This is the logic of Arjun, right? So therefore, the Pandavas, after the departure of the Kauravas, what did they do? They offered water even to the enemy's children. They did not hesitate to do that. Offered water. And therefore, interestingly, whether one is a criminal dying in the prison house or a priest dying in the temple, the mantras which is chanted for both them, they're equal. No distinction between the two. The mantras are the same only. No distinction. They also receive the grace of God and Surya, a priest, and this person, whatever crime he or she has done, they will also listen. Because this ritual give us the hope. This ritual give us a journey beyond our limitation. Therefore, today, on the 14th Jan, there is a huge celebration. For your information, sun moves every year to one Rashi. You know, we celebrate Karka Sankranti and Makara Sankranti. The sun is coming on 14 Jan to Makara Sankranti. Why it is special? Because the Uttarayana starts. If you have the facility, see the movement of the sun in 6 months. From north to south, when he enters into Karka Sankranti, that is Dakshinayana. When he enters into Makara Rashi, then it is called as a Makara Sankranti. Otherwise, every month he enters into one Rashi, you know. But this is the most important, and this is the day when our great Bhishma Dev, right? He didn't die on this day only. He didn't leave this body. He saw that Surya is entering into Uttara Disha, Uttarayana. And Uttarayana is the place which helps you to go higher and higher and higher. Literally going higher and also going higher in understanding. Therefore, there are so much to speak about Surya and so much to speak about Putra. But Putra is the essence of our is the consequences of our essence, and Surya Dev is the reason, he's a Karan of our essence. With this, I will stop. If you have any questions, we can take few questions.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We always thought legacy is about giving something to the generation which follows, which obviously is true, but really nice to learn that the legacy is for our protection also. Thank you very much. We request participants, in case you all have any questions, to please request to ask. Yes, we have Vaibhavji. Vaibhavji, can you please ask your question?
Prabhu, it's a wonderful discussion. It's always nice to hear from you. Just wish to ask that how do you reconcile, uh, studying various scriptures, going deeper as you are going, and then, sharing with the people around us? Because we see that nowadays, even the family members are not trying to go deep into, spiritual knowledge. Rather, they are more, concerned about some rituals which help them to keep a very good materialistic life. So, how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, that's okay. Even on any level, there are five levels. There is a Annamay Kosh, Pranamay Kosh, Manomay Kosh, Vigyanmay Kosh, Anandmay Kosh. On whatever level, if they are connecting to the realities of Prakriti, Surya Dev and Chandra, from there slowly growth will happen. The practitioners of Sanatan Dharma, they are not supposed to be the converter of people. They are supposed to be giving knowledge to the people. Recently I was in one village, and this is a place where one lady, she is from the Vanvasi background, where we call them Adivasis, and she's initiated by her guru in Ayodhya, and she started going around and talking to her people, speaking Harikatha, making them worship their local deities. And she was telling hundreds of people when they convert to Christianity in the Adivasi village. And the first thing they're told, okay, stop doing all this puja, that puja, everything. They stop. 1 year they stop, 2 year they stop, 3 year they stop. But then they start experiencing some changes in their life because they're disconnecting with their roots and connecting to something which is extremely unreal to them. you know just imagine somebody from a remote village in Karnataka who speaks Tulu and starts speaking in Arabic language. Who will understand? How will you develop a relationship with them? Not possible, because it is out of the that comfort reality. So then these people come and talk to the bhagat. There are this bhagat all over in the villages. Are, we have to do this puja. Then the bhagat teach them, Are, how can you do this puja? It is not permitted. So neither they are proper Christians, neither they are following this. When they realize this, slowly, then she goes and talks to them properly. There is no conversion because the ghar wapsi is a very natural phenomena for them. So similarly, the attachment to materialism developed by our ancestors, our people, whether our family or friends, is a very artificial reality. It is like speaking French language when you are supposed to speak Bhojvasha in your village. कब तक चलेगा है? You know how long this will continue. Therefore, about 20 years ago, there was a surge amongst highly educated Indians going back to their roots. Hundreds of American dwelling Indians, UK dwelling Indians, very highly accomplished people, they started looking back. Now, for your information, there are hundreds of young people who are working in many industries. They're learning the Vedas very systematically. I was in Bangalore recently, could see that. So, as much as you're talking about people are becoming more and more materialistic, there is also greater urge to go deeper and understand. So, therefore, it is our responsibility to connect them without criminalizing them. The problem is when the religious people take the position of a judge and make people criminals, give them a fear of hell, then it's not going to work. They said, okay, better to be hell as long as we can enjoy. Because your discussion, your way of communication is so hellish, we don't want this. So, therefore, it is very scientific, it is very systematic, it is very logical, it is very coherent. So, see and give that knowledge as much as they can handle, not as much as you have. That's most important.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Praveenji, can you please ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Govind Prabhuji. Thank you very much for such a wonderful lecture. I have one question that if a person has no putra or putri, so when he passes away, so nobody is there to give him Agni. So what happens to those people?
So, there are two things. One is to understand there was something where that energy flow has not happened properly and therefore they did not get putra or putri. Okay, so one should feel, oh my god, I did not get it, but it doesn't stop there because agni can be given by the relatives, agni can be given by the friend also, agni can be given by the son of a friend also. So it's a very interesting phenomena in the Vedic Sanskriti. You know, you do everything. Now what happens? People don't have son not because they are not supposed to get, but they are not properly following the process. When you're not following the process properly, and you are saying, it was God's will, I did not get. No, it's your mistake. When we say it was my destiny, I was not supposed to get, after following the proper process and understanding, then you don't get your child, then okay, this was my destiny, it was not there. So there are two different things, right? Because it is very important to understand that legacy is extremely important, which has been spoken in the scripture. But if you don't have, even if somebody did not have a child because of their own mistake and they realize afterwards, "Arey, nobody is there for us to do anything." No, invite, tell your friends, some relatives, give them that responsibility so that they can do for their friends or relatives. So there is, the Vedic principle is best use of the bad bargain, but very systematically and very organized way.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Shriji, can you please ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This is Radhika Krupa here. Thank you so much for the beautiful talk and insights, Prabhuji. Quick question on the same line of Putra and Putri, Prabhuji. So, for a daughter, when we get married, so we change the family. So, how come a Putri can establish the legacy, Prabhuji?
So Putri is the responsible. She is responsible for extending the legacy of her in-laws. She is a Jyoti in the Mahabharata. She is called as Jyoti. So therefore, she does that. Therefore, the reason why they say, why they pray for Putra, so that this family, the family where the person is born, that family also continues, because it is understood that the girl goes to somebody else's family and she becomes responsible for giving good birth. So there is no discrimination between putra and putri. So therefore she goes there and she illuminates that family. If you read shastra properly also, it is explained that the girl has a responsibility for both the family. She has a responsibility for her parents' family and she has a responsibility for her in-laws' family also. So therefore, but the rituals and everything will be done by the son. He's not doing it in this daughter's husband. They also do that. Take the responsibility of his in-laws family also for all that rituals and puja. That's what there are limitless scope to continue the process rather than saying abhi bachche nahi, we don't have the child, what can be done. No, you can still connect and move ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Harshi, can you please ask your question?
Govind Prabhu, thank you very much for the class. I have two things. One thing is to corroborate your findings. I have the fortune of staying in homes for last 10 years in which I have always sun facing, and I have been fortunate to see the sunrise. So I can say to myself that no matter how bad things are, every day I saw the sunrise and there is something good happening. Secondly, there's a link between son and the father, and I could see that if we can respect our father, also we do uh, understand the importance of son in our whole life. Also, the question is that Prabhuji, can you explain the importance of this Makar and Kark Sankranti over other Sankrantis? Thank you very much.
Simple, because sun is moving towards, he comes to the northern hemisphere, Uttarayana, and during Karka Sankranti he comes to Dakshinayana, and therefore they hold greater, the Uttarayana, the Pitrayana and the Devayana. When people, when during the, it's a very interesting, when Uttarayana comes, we worship the Devatas more and more. During the Dakshinayana, there is a facility for worshipping the Pitris. So therefore, Surya offers that facility. And this is the point where in Karkas Sankranti enters into Dakshinayana, and in the Makara Sankranti enters into Uttarayana.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Can I request Krishna Chandra ji to please ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Rodhat Pranam. Thank you for the class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have seen in southern part of India as well and Odisha, people do tarpan and they offer water to their ancestor during this festive season. Like, is there any scriptural reference for this, Prabhuji?
Of course, everything Krishna did every day without fail. Offering tarpan is an everyday affair for people going to, because people stayed close to river. Therefore our Chanakya Pandit says, that staying closer to river allows that facility to offering tarpan, offering the oblation to the forefathers and Surya. Lord Krishna every day without fail offered puja to devatas, to his pitris and to Surya. So that Surya Dev, within him alone, through him we can offer worship to Lord Narayan. Through him we can offer worship to the Pitris, and through him we can offer worship to the Devatas. So that was a affair which was done every day by all class of people. Therefore, when Kunti came to see Karna, now he was raised by Suta, but even he was doing Surya Puja. When Hanumanji saw Sita first, He saw her doing Sandhya. When Ravan was captured by Vali, what was he doing? He was doing his Sandhya Vandan. He captured Ravan in his armpit, and he went to the three direction for doing his three Sandhya. So therefore, it is very much scriptural, and which was done by almost everybody. Now, as I said, people, they worship, the lights in the bar, right? Therefore, they're drinking. Or the whole ignorance has to have a clear connection to darkness. In the light, one cannot be so illogical in their behavior and in their activities. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. It's quite fascinating to see the connection of these natural phenomena to our health, prosperity, well-being. Just hope and pray that this education continues. Um, how we can improve our well-being by using the knowledge of our shastras. Thank you.
Therefore, on the 14th, people can actually do little worship of Surya Dev. See the rising sun and offer their oblation to Lord Narayan. Offer gratitude to Surya Dev for listening to Gita knowledge. Offering gratitude to Surya Dev for making Lord Ramachandra come. Because he's the visible manifestation of the Supreme. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Prabhuji, we have two people who would like to ask questions. Would you like to take them?
Yeah, we can take 8 o'clock
Divyaji,
till
can you
8 o'clock.
please ask your question? Divyaji?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please
Ramesh
ask.
Kumar Goli. Prabhuji, especially in devotee circle, when we most of the devotee they don't know that these details of the rituals and the sanskaras. And whenever we ask most of the devotee, they generally reply like just you chant Hare Krishna or Prabhupada Pranati mantra, then things will be taken care. Then how we should see these things in our practices?
If you want to establish Varnashram Dharma, and if you study Shastra properly, even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya every day did, Madhyanika. Now,
Your
Madhyanika cannot be.
voice is echoing, Prabhuji. Divyaji, can you
Hello?
please unmute yourself?
Hello? Yeah. Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, when when you read Shastra as it is, then you realize the essence of what Prabhupada was saying. For Shuddha Bhakti, for your Atma, you need to have your connection to your mantra. But for your Man Buddhi Ahankar, this is not something which is not practiced by even the Vaishnavas from any sampradaya. They would practice that. So if you want to establish Varnashram, then all these things come. Gayatri is what? So when you go and study clearly, just read some verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita also you'll realize. Lord Chaitanya every day did even after taking sannyas. What is Madhyanika? The process of Madhyanika is same for everybody. It doesn't matter which sampradaya you belong to. With little difference here and there. The Sandhya Vandan is there. In the Bhagavatam it is there by Lord Krishna. Lord Ramachandra is there. Lord Chaitanya is there. So there cannot be any confusion in this regard.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Uh, request Davinderji. Davinderji, can you please ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Govind Prabhuji, Dandavad.
Hare Krishna.
Or Guru Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I think the previous listener, he asked the same question, that why in ISKCON, in our society, we understand when we're grown up, chanting Hare Krishna alone, we don't have that much time. So it's recommended, okay, now you're 40, 50, 60-year-old. So, but on the younger level, in the gurukulas, in the schools, in the Sunday schools, um, these procedures, especially Surya Namaskar and offering oblations and respecting the pitras and performing these ceremonies, these sanskaras are not given. So far, I haven't seen anybody's giving those apparently. And then, is there any reason why? I'm sure somebody thought about it, but they weren't
It's
given.
if there are of course many devotees too. If you go to Mayapur, also the children who are studying in Gurukul, they did Gayatri mantra was there, and people like what Prabhupada says that the Indians should only add Krishna to their life. He never said give up everything what you are doing before. So just have to add little, your devotion to Krishna, but other cultural and ritualistic legacy are, otherwise people end up in psychiatric, psychologic, and mental health institution. That time they don't feel there is compromising with their, going to sometime. Of course, I do recommend people, if they have some mental illness, they should go to psychologists, they go to psychiatrist, but sometimes they go overboard on the other side. But if you, these are all for dealing with our mind, buddhi and ahankar. I'm just discussing that perspective from here. Whether you take Chaitanya Charitamrita, you take from Varnashram Dharma perspective, everybody is practicing, therefore it was not discussed. Now we have to discuss, because people are not practicing Varna Dharma, they're practicing hippie Dharma. Right? When you start becoming hippie more and more, then we have to discuss some regulation, some discipline in regards to what to practice, along with people practicing their pure spirituality. If you see in the entire scripture, it is there like that. So there is no, wherever whoever speaks it, whoever is not speaking, that is not an important consideration. The consideration is, when you have a trouble, you go to a doctor. The doctor's name may not be given in your books. Oh, should I go to this doctor? Should I take this medicine? You need, you go. That benefits you. If it benefits you, you're not changing your faith from God to doctor. You have used him. So therefore, Prakriti has given us limitless resources, and based upon that limitless resources, we use what is good for us to keep our healthy mind, healthy intellect, and healthy body, and our Atma, which is offering devotion to God.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
Prabhuji.
we'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this uh, rare wisdom, which we should make it as a daily practice. We meet again on Tuesday next. Today we discuss the concept of birth. We'll be discussing the concept of death next Tuesday. Thank you very much. Till then, Hare
Thank you.
Krishna and good night.